We actually didn't have a chance to talk about this on the show last week, so we can dive into that now if you want. But the LEC format, I think, is really interesting, right? Because it's solving a lot of the problems with deadbeat team and franchising. Like, if you are the bottom two, if you're a bottom two team for all three splits, well, you're only going to get, 27 guaranteed games? So you're going to get fewer games on stage than you have right now. And by the way, they're using the LEC groups and they're using the bracket. But the hilarious thing is they've carved it into like a group stage into a playoff bracket, right? And they're doing it 3 times a year, which is exactly the same concept that OGN used to use that Riot crushed in 2015 because they thought the league format was better. So it's kind of outrageous that we're moving back to 3 mini tournaments, which was the entire thing that OGN had planned, but was told by Riot not to do anymore because it was bad and they wanted to shift the format. Like, we never had to be in the league situation to begin with. I find this whole thing completely fucking ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad it's changing, but it's a tacit admission that this format that OGN would use in some form or another, obviously not one-to-one, but the concept was the solid concept that people are more excited about and wanted to go after.
I mean, at least it means you get more actual playoff series and all that crap. So I don't really care. Like, by the way, I don't give a monkeys about the angle of like, oh, some team barely gets any games. I don't care about watching bad teams play. Remember, I'll tie it back into what I said before. If people had lived up to what they all promised when franchising came and every major region was 10 really cool sets of players, I'd be annoyed that you don't get to see many. I've seen the 9th and 10th teams in all these regions almost every year, minus that like summer 2021 or whatever, Origin was last place. They're just trash, the teams that are 9th and 10th. Like, the joke is they're just there to be the banana peel for the good teams. That's it. You basically just determines who comes first, second, or third, who loses to the 9th and 10th team. That's all they do as a function. They're not good League of Legends usually.
Yeah, but that's what's great is that we're going to have 2 teams eliminated after the first round robin. Then we're going to have 4 more teams eliminated before they hit the playoff bracket. So it's rewarding the good teams with more best of series, which the West definitely needs in terms of practice. And then more games, lots more games to the best team. If you're the best team, you're going to play far more games, which is going to be great because they're going to have significantly more experience as they head on to international stages. Like that to me is great. We get more games of the best teams and we get to cut out a lot of the bad teams, even a lot of the mediocre teams in the league, the longer this thing goes on. And it reaches a natural climax. I think all of this is a positive sign. Like, I would like it to be even more extreme, but here's the thing: they sold the franchises, so they have to provide people a minimum number of games so that they have a guaranteed number to sell sponsors against, which is why, it's designed the way it is. You have to make that compromise. Now, I think the other point of that is like, it would be great if we had 10 competitive teams. But yes, it would be great, but you have to incentivize the teams to do well. The problem for the teams is that the monetization system is fucking broken in esports, but in League of Legends specifically in this way. Talked about this before. The teams never understand how successful esports is as a marketing tool. Riot shares no information with the teams about skin sales, after matches, if a player plays the skin. It is hard to quantify these things because you can't always know the effect of that marketing, but surely they have some ballpark idea of the value of esports. I don't think they would be spending the literal hundreds of millions of dollars that they spend on the World Championship if they thought it was losing them hundreds of millions of dollars. Clearly, they have some idea that they sell a lot of skins and engage fans and keep them playing the game and buying skins by running esports events. But that data is hidden in a secret vault at Riot that probably only a few executives have access to. So the teams don't get much in terms of the in-game revenue. Now, our ecosystem is also broken and Twitch has a monopoly, so we can't sell media rights to anybody. Nobody is paying for it after that $100 million from the Overwatch League. So what does that leave? We just have sponsors and venture capital and $10 worth of merch that is sold. And that's it. So the teams are not incentivized by Riot to be good because the business of being a team is bad. So yes, I would like more competitive teams as well, but Riot hasn't helped themselves through this ecosystem they developed where they give away the product for free to the fans. They give it away and they can't sell media rights and they will not disclose or share much of the revenue that they make from the esports marketing exercises. That is the reason why in Valorant, they switched to a different model, which is pay the teams directly. We don't receive money from you. We pay you to run a Valorant roster and be our Valorant partner. And that's because we recognize that this is a marketing exercise that we have to pay for. So Valorant should be much more competitive. I actually like the new Valorant circuit. I think that the ideas are good that they're implementing there.
I mean, what's the connection between the two, though? Like, why would they move League of Legends for a game that the majority of League of Legends fans will never watch? And Riot are just idiots, mate. They don't know what esports. They think esports is sitting for 8 hours watching 8 different teams play. Like you're not a fan, 7 of them that you're not a fan of, and then going, oh, is that done now? Or the like time for Valorant? Well, I'll watch another 10 teams that 9 of which I'm not a fan of play. Like it's just no sport in the world works this way. The maddest part about it is they're all supposedly NFL fucking fanatics. The NFL doesn't even work that way. Nobody would watch the fucking NFL if to get to the good game you had to sit through watching like a past season of the Detroit Lions or something, or when the Giants are shit or something. Nobody would do that. There's no fan of the sport, American football, like that. They're fans of American football via their favourite team, their favourite player, their alma mater or something, or their state team. Nobody's just a fan of the entire fucking NFL. That doesn't even exist. That's just a mad concept.
Nobody's watching all the games unless you're like a professional analyst of the NFL. I mean, the closest anybody comes is watching Red Zone, right? Where you can watch all the big moments in the game simultaneously, or maybe you catch like your favorite team or the match of the week that they flex into, Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football. That a lot of people watch. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, it's true. Like you're not going to go back and watch all the film of the 5 games that were happening simultaneously in the early window on Sunday, right? Like that's ridiculous. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, it is really difficult sometimes because all the people who are sports fans, which I have no idea. Like, if you just think about the cringe shit that they used to say, like, oh yeah, I came into esports and like I'm an NFL fan, therefore I know what's best for esports. It's like such an insane statement to make that being a fan of something means that you know how to operate a sports business. But they came in with zero esports experience and did that, and they led us down this path that we're on right now, where they have to admit that the formats are bad because finally viewership has caught up with them and they need to make changes. But we could have had nice things from the beginning, right? We could have had nice things from the beginning. And thinking that these same people who definitely don't go back and watch all those NFL games every week, right, despite being NFL fans, they expect that of the viewers, which is crazy. There's too much. I've said this before, but there's an insane amount of oversaturation within the League of Legends esports world right now, where it's impossible for people, even whose jobs are watching the games, to watch all the games. Like that can't be allowed. That's just too much. There's too much going on globally. There's too many different regions. There has to be some level of consolidation if you believe that you should watch all of the games, as their actions seem to imply that you should, right? And their words seem to imply that you should.
And also, the only reason you're making changes, this is why they're so stupid. You're not making changes because it's awesome and you want to improve the league. You're making changes because the viewership's shit. Yep. So what that means is, by the way, think that through, fans. That means if the viewership stayed really good, their assumption was we just had the best format, which actually implies the opposite. What it implies is there might be a world where if this format's better, they could have had double the viewership all those years. I've always said this, fans will never understand it. I actually think at the end of the history of League of Legends, it will be one of the most misused and underutilized games in the history of esports, relative to the amount of spend and the potential what you could have done with that like global audience like we've never seen in any other esport, including Overwatch and all the other big games, CSGO, Dota. Nobody has this opportunity that Riot has. And what they are is, it's like I always say, they're the guy whose dad gave them like $1 million and then they fucked away like a 200k and they were like, we've still got 800k, it's more than you, you poor bitch. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess, but like you could have had millions from that, couldn't you, if you'd have fucking invested it or done a business or something.
Right. Or it's like, they gave somebody $1 million and they invested it and got up to $5 million. But if they had been smarter about investing, it could have been $100 million. You know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, I did it. I made $4 million. But it's like, yes, but if you had invested in in Amazon stock early, you would be much richer than you are right now. I mean, it is kind of a missed opportunity, but at least some of this stuff is getting fixed.
And also, I'll just throw this in there. When we always bang on about why don't they change the format of Worlds? Well, based on this logic, I think it's because the viewership for Worlds is still fine. That's even stupider. Because here's the dumbest thing about Riot refusing to do a better format for Worlds and or double elimination, right? If you didn't pay attention, guys, to those industry reports where it says like the number of viewers and you see the metrics they use, it used to just be concurrent peak viewers. That was the golden number that everyone wanted to sell. For years now, it's been total hours watched or something ridiculous like that. Well, spoiler, you're going to get even more hours watched with a double elim tournament. So that also means that by their own logic, they're just leaving money on the table with Worlds. Like, you'd not only have, by the way, we'd all love it. We'd have better matches, more matches, all the matchups we want to see. You'd also just get the key metrics everyone wants even bigger. Because there's another thing I find so underwhelming. It's like, they're this many years into League of Legends with all the regions built up. Now should be, by the way, where no one can even come close to you. Like, TI shouldn't even be in the same building. They don't even have Korea involved, for fuck's sake. Like, NA barely is a thing. Like, there should be a point now where, like, you should be just, this is like afterburners at this point in time. You should be doing numbers no one's ever seen in the history of anything. This should be where the joke is. 10 years in, you would actually, we all laughed at them back then, but in theory, if you had have been having this growth that was possible, you wouldn't be the NFL, but you would actually be on real sports level though. Like some of the sort of middling sports, you'd maybe be able to like take a peek past them, not the skewed ones where they take like Wimbledon only on like BBC on this, those ones where they do that angle to make it sound like it's bigger. Obviously not those. I mean, for real, by now it should have been able to grow to that point.
Yeah. And look, it would cost more to do double elimination, but you could easily offset that by not going to 4 different cities during Worlds, because the immense cost of moving, hundreds, if not thousands of people around, switching out your sets, changing the arenas and everything like that. It's just not worth it to have this live audience. And you would sell out no matter where you were. If you were in one location at the same time, you would still have the same crowd numbers. It's an event. People would fly in. People flew to fucking Korea. Hundreds of foreigners flew from all over the world to go to Worlds in Korea in 2014. It's just something people do. And that, they'll fly internationally for this shit, and they'll certainly fly domestically or within their own home continent in the case of Europe, right? So you don't have to move this thing around. You can take those costs and apply them to a few more broadcast days during the bracket, and then that solves your problem right there. Like in the short term, it would cost more money to do it that way, and they've already sold the sponsorship, so they're not going to get more money from those particular sponsors. But you can not move it. You can then do double elim at the same, or probably close to the same cost. Then you get the bigger numbers and you sell it for the next series, right? As a higher value sponsorship, like you're saying. And then you actually end up making more money, I think. I think we're going to see probably changes next year. As I think Riot was massively over budget in terms of esports this year, both in Valorant and in League of Legends. And so I think the cuts are coming, guys, and I'll be interested to see what they do for the international circuits next year in terms of these changes. All right.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.